Okay, 3.6 is solve radical equations. Here are some steps you can write down that will help you when you're solving. Step 1, isolate the radical on one side of the equation, if necessary. If there are two radicals in your equation, put one on each side of the equation. Step 2, eliminate the radical by raising the radical to the same power as the index. Now remember, if you raise one side to a power, you have to also raise the other side of the equation. Step 3, solve for the variable. Okay, let's work through this example here. Remember, step 1 was isolate your radical. If you look here, our radical is right here, and it's already all by itself, so now we can move to step 2. You want to get rid of the radical by raising the radical to the power that is the same as the index. So in this situation, you're going to take the cube root of 2x plus 7 raised to the third power equals 3 to the third power also. Remember, whatever you do to one side of the equation, you have to do to the other. Now, the cube root of something raised to the third power eliminates the radical. So you're left with the radicand is equal to 3 cubed, which is 27. Now, step 3, simplify the rest of the expression. We're going to subtract 7 from both sides. That gives you 2x equals 20. So x is equal to 10. And that would be your answer there. Okay, going to the next slide. Okay, these examples here I'm going to ask you to enter into a lesson check after you're done with the lesson. So go ahead in your notes. I would like you to solve the square root of x plus 25 equals 24. Once you're finished with that, then move on to the next slide. We have one more example we're going to work. Okay, let's do this one together. Remember, step 1 is to isolate your radical. The radical expression is this term right here. We need to get rid of this times by 2. So we're going to take this equation and divide both sides by 2. 2 divided by 2 is 1, so that cancels. Then that leaves you the cube root of x minus 3 equals 4 divided by 2, which is 2. Now our radical is by itself, so we can raise it to the third power again. That cancels our radical. I'm left with x minus 3 equals 2 to the third power, which is 8. Step 3, simplify your expression, which means solve for the variable. Add 3 to both sides, so x is equal to 11. Okay, moving on to the next slide. Now try this one in your notes. The cube root of x minus 9 equals negative 1. One little note with this one is the negative 9 is not inside the radical, so you need to get rid of that first. Okay, once you're done with that example, let's move on. We're going to solve equations with rational exponents. Here are some steps to do that. The first one is isolate your power term, the term that's raised to the rational exponent. So looking here at this example, negative 27 equals negative 3 times b to the 1/2. b to the 1/2 power is your power term. So you need to get rid of the negative 3 first. So you would divide both sides by negative 3. Step 2, eliminate the exponent by raising both sides of the equation to the reciprocal of the rational exponent. Because remember that a number times its reciprocal is equal to 1. Step 3, simplify, which means solve for your variable. Okay, let's look at this example here. What are the solutions of the equation 4x to the 2/3 equals 36? So if we take 4x to the 2/3 equals 36. Remember, step 1 is to isolate your power term. So we want to get x to the 2/3 by itself. So we're going to first get rid of the times by 4 by dividing both sides by 4. That gives you x to the 2/3 equals 9. Step 2, we're going to raise the power term to the power that is the reciprocal of the exponent. So the reciprocal of 2/3 is 3/2. So raise both sides to the 3/2 power. Now, this works because you have power over power, so 2/3 times 3/2 is 6/6. So you get x equals 9 to the 3/2 power. Now, you do need to simplify 9 to the 3/2 power. Remember that that's the same as 9 to the 1/2 power cubed. 9 to the 1/2 power is square root. The square root of 9 is 3 to the 3rd power. Therefore, x is equal to 27. So your correct answer here would be, oh, what am I forgetting? Since it's the square root of 9, we have to remember plus or minus. So your correct answer is D. Okay, going on to this one, I would like you can push pause, write this problem down, work it in your notes, and then be ready to enter that into the lesson check. Okay, those are the 2 types of equations you're going to be solving on this homework assignment. If you're comfortable with the 3 examples you've done so far, then you can do the lesson practice. The link will be in the assignment in Schoology. Enter the answers that you got in your notes for examples 1 through 3, and then move on to do your homework. If you would like more practice, you may continue watching the next few slides. Here's one where an example where we have 2 radicals, and you need to make sure you put 1 on each side of the equation. So now this is square root, so we're going to raise both sides to the 2nd power. That cancels the radical on both sides, makes it nice and easy. 2x plus 5 is equal to x plus 7. Subtract x from both sides. You get x plus 5 equals 7, and then subtract 5. So x is equal to 2. Okay, one more example here. Now this one will be a little different because we want to get rid of the square root. So we're going to raise that to the 2nd power. Oh, hold on, let me fix that a little bit. Okay, we're going to raise this to the 2nd power. And also raise x plus 3 to the 2nd power. Okay, on the left, these cancel, so we're left with 10x plus 9 equals, now remember, this is equal to x plus 3 times x plus 3. You cannot just say x squared plus 9. That you'll be missing your middle term. So if we go ahead and distribute, you're going to get x times x, which is x squared. If you do 3 times x is 3x and you double that, that gives you your middle term. 3 times 3 is 9. Now we have a quadratic. So when we solve for x, we're going to have to use a quadratic formula or factor. We'll see what we can do. So if we subtract 10x from both sides, and we subtract 9, then we're going to get 0 is equal to x squared minus 4x, and then these cancel. That's nice. Now we can factor. Since we don't have a c, we can take out a common factor. 0, so x times x minus 4. Now set each factor equal to 0 and solve. So x is equal to 0 or 4. And those are both your answers. You can look for extraneous solutions by checking 0. So if you plug in 0 for x, does that give you a negative number in your radical? You'd have 10 times 0, which is 0 plus 9. It would still be positive, so you're okay. And same thing with the 4. So both of those would work. All right, let's try a couple more. This one is using rational exponents. We want to first get rid of, we want to get the x to the 3/2 by itself. So we're going to divide both sides by 3. So that would give you x to the 3/2 equals 375 divided by 3 which would be 125, I believe. Okay, now we're going to raise 3/2. Raise this to a power that will eliminate the exponent. So we're going to raise it to the power that is the reciprocal of 3/2. The reciprocal of 3/2 is 2/3. So these would cancel each other. So you'd have x is equal to 125 to the 2/3 power. Remember that the denominator of your exponent is the root. So that would be the cube root of 125. So you can separate it like this if you'd like to, which is the cube root of 125 squared. The cube root of 125, I believe, is 5. And squared, so you'd have x equals 25. And that is your solution. Okay, let's see, I think we have maybe 2 more. Okay, sometimes you have a binomial raised to a rational exponent. You're still going to do that the same way. Our power term would be this entire expression. It's already by itself, so we're just going to proceed to step 2, which is raise we're going to raise that to the power that would eliminate our exponent. So we're going to raise that entire thing to 3/4 is equal to 81 to the 3/4 power. These cancel each other out, so you're left with x minus 5 is equal to 81 to the 1/4 power cubed. Now the 4th root of 81, I believe, is 3. So you'll have x minus 5. You can double check that on your calculator. The 4th root of 81 is 3 to the 3rd power. So that would be x minus 5 is equal to 27. Add 5 to both sides. So that's x equals 32. All right, I believe, let's see. This is our last example we're going to go through. This will be similar to the last question we just did, except for we need to get the power term by itself. So we first need to get rid of this minus 1. So I'm going to add 1 to both sides. That gives you x plus 2 raised to the 3/4 power is equal to 8. Now we're going to raise, I'm going to erase this to give myself a little bit of room. Okay, we're going to raise this whole expression to the reciprocal power of the exponent. 3/4, the reciprocal of 3/4 is 4/3. So then I'm going to raise 8 to the 4/30 power. Power of a power, we multiply exponents. That will eliminate the exponent. You're left with x plus 2 equals. Remember, the denominator is 3. That means cube root. So the cube root of 8, so you'd have 8 to the 1/3 power raised to the 4th power. So x plus 2 is equal to the cube root of 8, which is 2 to the 4th power. X plus 2 is equal to 2 to the 4th power, which is 16. Subtract 2. X is equal to 14. And that is it. Okay, hopefully that's enough examples for you to get started on your homework. If not, feel free to come back and reference